Hi, Andrea Morisette Grazzini, founder and CEO of WetheP. I want to talk today about social contagions. So social contagions are just what they sound like. It's a contagion or a contagious behavior that's spread from person to person to person in a social environment. The social environment could be anywhere. It could be in public, it could be in an organization, it could be online, just anywhere you've got gatherings of people coming and going or gathering together. And the contagion effect, instead of being a virus of some bacteria, it's a virus of behavior or of feelings or of thought, of actions. So there's some interesting examples of this. The negative examples, I'll start out with and we'll get those out of the way, and then we'll go to some positive examples. So the one that comes to mind in terms of civic life is polarized politics and how that spreads from person to person to person. And good people begin sort of spouting the same negatives that their candidates or their party is using as a strategic method of spreading the contagion of their views. In some ways, it's very effective and can be very positive. But what we're noticing a lot lately, of course, is this really polarizing effect on both sides of the two main parties in the U.S. and certainly in other realms as well. So that's a negative example of how social contagions can spread and sort of carry on their own without much management and sometimes get out of hand. Positive examples are, it's a holiday season right now, so a fun positive example is a flash mob. You've got people that show up at a mall and they sing, or they may be an orchestra, and as they slowly begin singing, people start noticing them and maybe sing along with them. Maybe they become they're waving other people over, they're smiling, maybe they're dancing a little bit, and it's a really powerful and fun example of a social contagion. Another social contagion that I've been looking at a lot, because we recently lost him, is the effect of Nelson Mandela's brilliance at using social contagion to influence large groups, whole countries, in fact, of course, of people. So when Mandela began his fight against apartheid, he was with a militant group and he quickly became a leader. As the leader, he used his abilities to spread the rhetoric or the concerns of black Africans to fight apartheid. And as he used that ability, more and more black Africans came to his views and wanted to work with him and fight against apartheid. Their methods weren't so great, depending on how you look at these things. I think Mandela felt that they were necessary, but they were pretty aggressive, and that became something of a problem. So much so that he was accused and put in jail for trying to overthrow the South African government. What's interesting is he continued using or understanding the principles of social contagions in jail or in prison. So for a long time, because of his tremendous abilities to create contagious passions around the issues of apartheid and fighting apartheid, he was actually kept away from the other prisoners. They felt that he was simply too powerful in his ways of influencing people and the wardens did not want an uprising in the prison, so they kept him away from the other prisoners. But in time, he was able to be with the other prisoners, and as he was observing the prisoners at their exercise time playing rugby or soccer, he noticed something fascinating happening with both black and white prisoners as they were playing together. As they're playing together, they're having this mini social contagion where it's such a positive experience. They're having so much fun. They're getting so much exercise. It feels good that they're being positive to one another. So there's this social contagion going on in their game that's actually breaking down the barriers of race, and almost without their knowing it. So he's observing this and sort of filing it away. It shows up again after he gets out of prison and after he becomes president of South Africa. A year later, the South African country hosted the World Cup in rugby. And in South Africa, the team, the Springboks, really represented exactly what Mandela and others felt was wrong with South Africa. It was a very white team. It was a very white spectatorship. It was not a place that welcomed or even acknowledged black Africans. So this was the elite of South Africa and the very oppressors that he'd been fighting so many years against. When they went to the World Cup and they played in the final game, Mandela did something astonishing in using this platform, this very social event. So there's tens of thousands of people, most of them white, at the World Cup in South Africa. And here the president of South Africa, who has so long fought whites in South Africa, shows up on the field. The Springboks, the South African team, had won. He shows up in their green jersey. He shows up in the jersey of his quote-unquote enemy, or the people he'd been fighting against for years. And in that moment, as he shook the hands of the captain of the Springboks, the white captain, and there's all these tens of thousands of white citizens in the stands, something just transformative happened as whites began to see that Mandela was a human being that respected and recognized them in spite of his tensions and concerns about some of their behaviors. And blacks began to accept them as well. They began to accept the whites that were blacks who were viewing this game. So it was a tremendous turning point because of social contagion effects, where the whole country began to understand that apartheid and anti-apartheid, in fact, anti-apartheid was not a fight. It was something that could bring their country together. So think about that a little bit, and think about all the ways that we are involved in social contagions, and maybe how we can set off a few of our own through our behaviors, hopefully positive behaviors that make some sort of change, just like Nelson Mandela. Maybe not quite that big, but who knows? It's worth a try. Thanks.